You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There is a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for the week of October 27th, 2023. It is not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where it's our DRIFTGLASS birthday episode. Yay!
Yay!
It's The Professional Left with DRIFTGLASS and Blue Gal.
Hey, Blue Gal.
Hey, happy birthday, DRIFTGLASS.
Thank you. Thank you.
And DRIFTGLASS and I don't exchange big, huge gifts. He sometimes gets me yarn that I already purchased myself.
Yeah, so handy.
He's so good at that.
She's my personal yarn chopper. Yeah.
Yeah, I just say, I got this, and this is what you got me for my birthday. Uh-huh. But I got DRIFTGLASS a little, very inexpensive cookie tin, I guess it is.
Yeah.
And it was part of the Halloween line at some craft store that had Edgar Allan Poe on the outside of it.
That's right.
And I gave it to DRIFTGLASS early, and he opened it up, and he immediately said, "Oh, I want my ashes in this thing."
Yes, I do. Yes, I already have an Edgar Allan Poe action figure.
Yes,
and
you
an
do.
Edgar Allan Poe bobblehead around here somewhere. So it completes my collection.
So now you have an urn.
An urn.
Which was not my intention.
And as was said at the very end of Saving Private Ryan, earn this. So
earn this. Yes.
Yeah. I know my ashes won't end up there. You know what's going to end up in there? Knitting needles. Right in.
No. Yes. I'm not going to put knitting needles in an Edgar Allan Poe can. That is not my jam. That is your jam.
You say that, and yet
you're going to use it for pens, I'm sure. But
I'm sure.
We have a lot to cover today, including we have to start with the awful news.
Yeah, the awful news. The mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine. And we're just going to start off by saying it's the guns. It's the guns.
It's the guns.
The AR-15. It's the guns. Everything else is goddamn secondary to the guns. The mass shooter in Lewiston, Maine managed to murder nearly as many people in one night as were murdered in Maine all last year. The shooter reportedly is a standard issue MAGA nutjob who also had mental health issues, including hearing voices telling him to kill National Guardsmen.
He also had a restraining order and domestic violence history.
Yeah.
So all of the background check, all of the things that moms demand action, the reasonable gun reform that they're asking for, he checked all those boxes.
Yes, he did. And it's being reliably reported that he was interested in right-wing figures. He liked tweets like those from Donald Trump Jr. and Tucker Carlson and Dinesh D'Souza. Also liked tweets from former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. We also note that it was Donald Trump who signed the bill revoking the Obama-era gun checks for people with mental illnesses. And we're also going to note that Maine Republican Senator Susan Collins voted against the kind of background check that might have prevented this guy from buying an AR-15 and exercising his constitutional right to shoot 47 people. This is, you might remember, the same Susan Collins who 1 year ago absolutely lost her shit and called the cops when someone chalked the sidewalk in front of her house, asking her to pretty please protect women's rights to reproductive freedom, which, of course, she completely failed to do.
Yeah, no, she voted for a Supreme Court that took away Roe.
Yeah.
In every instance. Yep.
And was sure that wasn't going to happen because she talked to those people and she knows those people.
Kavanaugh, she was sure he was on the side of choice.
What's the problem in our politics? It's the Republicans. What's the problem with mass shootings? It's the guns. It's not a lot more complicated than that.
And not to go all Bible bitch. There's been several requests for me to go Bible bitch, and at some point I'll consider doing that. But I did want to quote Benjamin Perry, who is a pastor at Middle Church in New York City. He, on Twitter, quoted the theologian Miroslav Volf. Quote, "There is something deeply hypocritical about praying for a problem you are unwilling to resolve." This thoughts and prayers bullshit.
Yeah, there are ways to
is
make this
a way
better.
to avoid solving the problem, which is your job in Congress, is to
Mhm.
solve problems. I thought you were problem solvers.
It every time I hear this false dichotomy, which is either do absolutely nothing or take every gun away from every person under every circumstance, et cetera, I know the person I'm talking to is an unreasonable meat stick who can't be talked to, because that's not how any problem ever gets solved. If you'd like to make this problem better, if you'd like to improve the situation, there's some very simple, basic things that can be done. And Republicans are unwilling to do any of those things because they are hostage to the NRA. And because, frankly, at this point, that means they are objectively pro mass shooting.
Right.
Because they won't do anything to fix a problem that's very, very fixable or ameliorate a problem that can be made better. And they won't do a single thing to do it. They will get very excited about, I don't know, Hunter Biden's laptop and Solyndra and tan suits, and they'll hold impeachment hearings on bullshit stuff about Joe Biden. But when it comes to actual problems that our nation is facing that involve the death and injury to hundreds of people, thousands of people every year, they won't do a goddamn thing. So please spare me ever again hearing someone talk about they're independent because they can't decide which party is better, because I can't decide anything.
No.
Anyway, enough of that.
Well, but they think a book can make you gay.
Sure. Book can make you gay.
Guns don't kill people, but a book can make you gay.
Just a book cover. Really, just the book cover can make you gay.
Speaking of gay, no, never mind. I'm sorry.
No, we're going to move on to some very exciting news from the new Speaker of the House. According to the new Speaker of the House, who I believe is named Mike Tallywhacker, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were chosen by Almighty God herself to lead America. Not kidding.
Yeah.
Guy's an expert. Quote, I believe that Scripture, the Bible, is very clear that God is the one who raises up those in authority, unquote. Bingo. Joe Biden, chosen by God, case closed. Next.
And Splint chest hair said so. So,
he did.
He
did. He said, and he's the third in line of the president. Also, the new speaker, who's Mike Trouser Snake or Mike Salami. I'm not quite sure what his name is.
Rip Slag Cheek. I'm going to use all the MST3K names today.
He's apparently quite the authority on the wishes of the white conservative Christian Jesus. Here is more wisdom from the new speaker, Mike Beefhammer, this time from a House Judiciary Committee hearing where he insisted that if only women were compelled to bring more able-bodied workers into the world, meaning forced birth, Republicans wouldn't need to slash Social Security and Medicare. They wouldn't have to do it, Pluga, but because women have abortions, they're going to have to cut Social Security and Medicare. No choice, God's will. Now, this is still more wisdom from GOP's unanimous choice for Speaker, Mike Disco Stick. Quote, we don't live in a democracy. We live in a biblical republic. Isn't that exciting to find that out? And as to the reason for why his wife was absent during his ascension to the third most powerful seat in American politics, quote, she spent the last couple of weeks on her knees in prayer to the Lord, and she's a little worn out. So we know what the nickname is in Mike Johnson's house for Johnson. It's the Lord.
It's the Lord. And Slate Fist Crunch over here.
Mm-hmm.
The elevation of Mike Kilbasa to Speaker tells us one very important thing about the Republican Party, actually.
Yeah, it does.
In all seriousness.
Yeah.
There are no normies left.
Nope.
Because 100% of them voted for this bozo.
Mm-hmm.
And by any healthy standard, there weren't any normies to begin with.
Right.
But by the debased standards that pundits used, at least there were a handful in the House who weren't out and out election deniers. But that's all over now. All of them, the entire House Republican caucus, voted unanimously to put a smirking, hard right-wing, election-denying, forced birth, Christo-fascist lunatic third in line to the presidency.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure his prayer meetings with Marjorie Taylor Greene will be very well attended.
They're both very religious, deeply religious. Yes.
Especially her seminars on how gravity works, because she tweeted this week, the Earth spins at roughly 1,000 miles per hour. We have no idea we are even moving. Don't ever let anyone tell you God's not real.
It's a hell of a syllogism, don't you think, Blue Gal?
She's just a piece of work.
And that Earth spins at roughly 1,000 miles an hour is a direct quote from the first thing you get in Google if you type in how fast does the Earth spin. So,
Well, she and Biff Drink Lots are going to have a lot of fun at prayer meetings. Let's face it.
Yeah, they are. And they'll be well attended. They'll be very well attended because, power attracts people like this on the right. They sucks them in like moths to a flame.
They get to raise all kinds of money for their political action committee so they can buy $92,000 SUVs to park in their garage. During the House Speaker election debacle, I suggested that a few Biden district Republicans could form a third party called the Independent Constitutional Conservatives who never liked the tweeting party. And I also suggested that they might win a primary if they called themselves that, because there's plenty of people out there that want to absolve themselves of any responsibility for anything going wrong right now.
And the name Tea Party was already taken.
Yeah.
Sadly. It's already been
used. And they get it out with the media. Oh, look, there's this brand new movement called Independent Constitutional Conservatives.
Who never liked the tweeting.
And maybe they'd get some funding from No Labels. I'm an independent is that, we've talked about this so many times. It's a get out of responsibility for my vote card. So yesterday, Wednesday, there was a caller to C-SPAN. And I have to note that he was fairly articulate. Sometimes they are a piece of work, and this one was okay. He was speaking in complete sentences.
He thought this through very carefully.
Well, he was speaking in complete sentences and making an argument. And he started by announcing that he had actually filed the paperwork to change his voter registration to independent. Because he's so upset that Donald Trump orchestrated the election of a House Speaker single-handedly. That was the straw that broke the camel's back with him. Finally, he's decided, I can't be a Republican anymore. Donald Trump's doing this whole thing. And
coup was okay.
Yeah.
Election denial was okay. Muslim ban was okay.
Yep.
All the bullshit.
But all of a sudden, he is single-handedly picking the Speaker of the House, and that's just a bridge too far. On the other hand, he likes Mike Johnson, blast Hardcheese. He thinks it's just fine.
Yeah.
So here's what the caller said, quote, "Without Trump, they're not going to elect a speaker, meaning to me that Trump is controlling this whole thing. And that's very upsetting to me that one person would wield that kind of power. That being said, I think I like Mike Johnson, fresh blood up on the dais, and I think we might be pretty good with him. But that's not changing my opinion about becoming an independent." It's not like that C-SPAN caller is going to go vote for a Democrat for House member. He's going to vote Republican for the rest of his life. But he doesn't want responsibility for Trump's control over the House of Representatives. He considers that to be a bridge too far. And again, I can't stress enough that the entire Republican caucus in the House of Representatives, including the new speaker, have genuflected to Trump's will.
Yep.
And, this C-SPAN caller is just fine with Mike Johnson. Just like all of them. As one colleague on Crooks and Liars noted, consistency isn't their strong suit, but as you pointed out, DRIFTGLASS, they're very consistent.
They're entirely
and you
consistent.
And I can predict their opinions and motives and actions months out.
Right.
So,
generally speaking, it's whichever way the wind is blowing.
Yeah.
They're consistently moving in whatever direction the mob is moving.
Yep.
And if they don't, they get threatened or thrown out of office or otherwise terrorized by the mob until they fall in line. They will never stand up to the mob. They will never do anything like that. As to this guy finally having it's too much. It's too much, Blue Gal. Yeah. I am reminded of a case I heard from a lawyer friend of mine years and years and years ago about a woman who killed her husband with a frying pan.
Oh, yeah. You told me this story.
The question was, why'd you do it? And the answer was, he just got on my last nerve.
My last nerve.
And
she'd been married to him for 24 years. Yeah, and
that was it.
The last nerve.
And all the police women were like, yeah. And I mean, it's possible that this was his last nerve. I'm tired of my grandchildren and my children disowning me.
Right.
I'm tired of everyone.
Oh, a lot of people are. There's a whole Reddit thread too of former QAnon people quoting former QAnon saying, "I just wanted my family back, and I realized I'd gone too far down a rabbit hole."
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. You don't want to go that deep. You want to be able to pull out before before it's too late. It's sort of the pull-out method of birth control on the
Yeah,
right. You don't want to go there.
Just as effective, right?
Now, speaking of independence, you'll just never guess what I read this week, Blue Gal. You'll just never guess. This could be your C-SPAN caller, but it's not. It's Max Boot, who, if you don't know, Max Boot was a relentless Iraq war pimp, attacked liberals for attacking George Bush, was just, hated all of us on the left, wrote extensively about what monsters we all were and how much we hated America. And then Donald Trump was his last nerve.
Mm-hmm.
And because a bunch of credulous liberals said, well, I guess he's okay now. He's okay now.
He's a never-Trumper.
He's a never-Trumper now. It's okay. Max Boot can now be found quite frequently in the Washington Post, which is not where you're going to find Blue Gal or me or Bob Seska or Digby or anybody really on
Marcos
the left.
Melitza.
You're not going to find any of those people. But you will find Max Boot there because, got to lard up that place with some never-Trumpers. But here's what he said this week on the Twitter. I'm open to other interpretations, but to me it looks like Democrats put their party over country on the assumption that GOP chaos would help them in the 2024 election. Let us note, he is saying that it was Democrats' responsibility to fix his party's catastrophic inherent failure as citizens and as decent human beings. It's our responsibility. It's always our responsibility. And we didn't do it. We didn't do our job. He goes on. But what about governing the country in the meantime? It's days like this that make me glad to be, and everybody say it with me now, independent. He's an independent. Thank God I'm not shackled to one party or another. I'm just out here floating in space, enjoying my time, taking shots at whoever I don't like. And you know what? Democrats should have stepped up and done what I hired them to do. Do the thankless job of cleaning up my fucked up party that I helped fuck up. That's their job. Their job is to be the janitor that walks behind the elephant that's shitting all the time. No. Our job is to kill the elephant and bury it someplace and have it replaced with, I don't know, anything, any other party. But your former party, Max, is the goddamn problem. And
does he really think that Hakeem Jeffries has no interest in governing the country?
I have no idea what he thinks. All I know is that he's
what he's saying.
Yes, it is. And that we put chaos. No.
We put elections over governing the country.
We held a magnifying glass up to the Republican Party and showed the country what it actually is. What we have been saying it actually is way back during the time when Max Boot was a loyal, goose-stepping Republican. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I have made this point before. I don't know if I've made it on this podcast recently, but I might have said it like 2 days ago. Here's the problem, Max. I'm talking to you, buddy. The public has the memory of a fruit fly. Okay? They don't remember anything. And the media is so horny to get back to Democrats in disarray. Democrats don't know what they're doing. Hunter Biden laptop. They want those stories. They don't want to hear about the Republican Party being a complete catastrophe, about being an utter meltdown, a haven for lunatics and imbeciles and goofs like Mike Beefhammer. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to report that story. That's not a story they want to talk about because they're part of that story. They're complicit in that story. Yep. And the more the Republican Party is held out, stinking, rotting as it is in front of the public in a place where they can't avoid looking at it, the better it is for our republic, Max. The better it is. And the more Democrats feel the urge to rush in and perfume over it and clean up their mess, that's bad for the country. Because then the country doesn't get to understand what it is you get when you vote Republican. You get fucking chaos. Yep. And that's why instead of cleaning up Republican messes, Max, they need to vote them out of office and vote in Democrats. That is the long-term solution to this problem. Yep. Now I will step off my soapbox.
Well, but don't step off yet, DRIFTGLASS, because it's not just the Washington Post, it turns out.
No, it's
you won't believe this. But the New York Times is also complicit.
You're fucking kidding me, Blue Gal.
The
really?
The editorial page at the New York Times has some problems, DRIFTGLASS.
What was their problem, Blue Gal?
I made him smile for his birthday show.
No. Pull my finger, Blue Gal.
For some reason, the old gray lady gave bow tie wearing weasel Rich Lowry a guest column this week.
Oh, that's right.
Rich Lowry is very frustrated, DRIFTGLASS. His Republican Party is full of Republicans.
God damn it. When did that happen? You know, you go on
Well,
one
he
cruise,
opened, he
Blue Gal.
opened with some historical perspective because Barry Goldwater, Ronald Reagan, and Newt Gingrich are conservative heroes
Oh, I
who,
forgot about
quote, rose by arraying themselves against Republicans' powers that be they considered too timid and moderate, unquote.
that. Mm-hmm.
Lowry takes swipes at Gingrich's spiritual children. Everyone from Matt Gaetz to Ann Coulter to Kevin McCarthy gets a bite on their ankle. But the best part of this unforgettable or forgettable tripe is buried a dozen paragraphs in, because he got all of these paragraphs, Driftglass, in the New York Times.
All the real estate Rich wants is what he gets, baby.
Yes. Guess who Rich Lowry blames for the rise of Donald Trump?
Oh, I think I know.
Quote,
Uh-huh.
Mitt Romney was serious, civic-minded, and conscientious. And he got absolutely bulldozed by the Obama campaign, those meanies.
Monsters.
They portrayed him as some kind of monster. The thinking of a lot of Republicans after that was basically, if you portray all our candidates as crude, unethical, partisan haters, well, maybe we should just give you one.
Yeah.
Unquote.
Yeah.
That is the most misremembered thing I've heard in a long time.
Well, Rich Lowry knows better. He's not stupid.
You and I wrote our way through the 2012 presidential campaign.
Yes, we did.
And we know what went down there.
Yes, we do.
And what the Romney-Ryan campaign, what a failure it was.
Oh, yeah. It was absolutely. It was an abject failure.
Yeah.
It was Mitt Romney shot himself repeatedly in the foot with the biggest gun he could find over and over again.
Yep.
He lied about the content of his own book about Romney Care. And he got caught doing it. He lied about what Barack Obama said about a terrorist attack in a debate on live television. And then the moderator, who Barack Obama said, you're wrong. Hey, let's check it out. Moderator said, actually, Mitt, Governor, Barack Obama's right. And that was when Obama famously said, after you, Governor, after you, step into it. This is not my trap. This is your big line. And you're about to fuck up real bad.
Please proceed, Governor.
Yeah, please proceed, Governor. And you know what? The mob wasn't mad at Candy Crowell, I think, who was the moderator. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But they were mad. We're mad at Romney for lying. They were mad at her for not letting him get away with lying.
Yeah, not letting him lie.
And Mitt Romney knew what party he was running in. He knew who he was appealing to. He was a severe conservative. He repeatedly a severe conservative. And honestly, this is the same kind of bullshit that Charlie Sykes tries to sneak in every now and then. Well, the reason there's so many racists in the Republican Party is you called us racist for so long, so we just decided to be racist. No. The reason the Republican Party is the way it is because you spent all your life recruiting meatheads and bigots and morons.
You brainwash these folks to believe everything that Fox told them.
Right. Like Romney was going to win.
And then they were embarrassed by Bush, and the party establishment decided to nominate Bush's brother.
Right.
And in the meantime, here is a TV huckster repeating everything that Sean Hannity has been telling the Republican base for years. And this base says, gosh, Donald Trump's saying what I'm thinking. Bunch of racist claptrap about Mexicans.
And speaking of portraying him as some kind of monster, let's all remember what the Republican Party and conservative media, including Rich Lowry's National Review magazine, spent 8 years doing to Barack Obama.
Absolutely.
And he's mad at Barack Obama and liberals because we broke the unwritten rule. The rule that basically Max Boot just referred to, which is it's Democrats' job to shut up and take it. It's your job to behave civilized. It's your job to not punch back. When you punch back, you are breaking the rules of politics. Our job is to shit all over you. Our job is to let Rush Limbaugh run roughshod, to put Newt Gingrich in charge of the House, and let Tom DeLay follow him up, and let every asshole in the world just have a free fire zone attacking liberals, including Rich Lowry's magazine. But if you push back, if you fight back, if you run, as Barack Obama did in 2012, as a politician running for office, running a tough campaign, well, then that's just beyond the pale. What, Democrats running to win, running as if it mattered who won, and attacking Mitt Romney at his weakest points over and over again, very effectively doing so, that's beyond the pale. And that really, Blue Gal, drove all these good people into the arms of Donald Trump. That's the real problem with the Republican Party. It was Barack Obama and those goddamn liberals that made them go pick an unethical partisan hater, because they were never that before. They just magically became that overnight because we were so unfair to them. Now, continuing on that theme, sort of, I got a letter about Mr. Matthew Dowd, about whom I've written many times, from a concerned reader named Sandman. And here's what Sandman wrote me. Quote, Mr. Dowd is currently plagiarizing at least the past 8 years of your blog on posts on Twitter today. Evidently, he is horrified to discover that the Republican Party is full of Republicans. I humbly request his swift evisceration at your hands forthwith. Sincerely, Sandman. You know what, Sandman, if I can find the time, I'll do it. But
I think you just did.
Honestly, Matthew Dowd already operates under the protection of Nicole Wallace and MSNBC.
Yeah.
And every time you see one of these people on social media, the first sentence out of their mouth is, I was on MSNBC last night with Nicole Wallace. I was on MSNBC last night with Chris Hayes.
Right.
And they're part of the club now.
Yeah.
And therefore, whatever I say, whatever you say, whatever we think of them, whatever the truth is, bounces off of them. They're behind the protective shield of media, beyond our reach. I still think we should document this stuff, but we're blocked and frozen out and considered the same kind of pariahs we were in 2005 when we called George Bush a lying douchebag who's lied us into the wrong war. So
absolutely,
this is what we do. Yep.
DRIFTGLASS, happy birthday.
Thank you, Blue Gal.
I was browsing the Amazon bestseller list today to find out that David Brooks is clocking in at number 5 with How to Know a Person.
How to Know a Person.
Followed closely at number 6 on the Amazon bestseller list with The Great Disappearance, 31 Ways to be Rapture Ready. And I guess you're supposed to hold up a copy of How to Know a Person by David Brooks.
It'll get you,
and that'll make you rapture ready.
Here. I know you all. I only have like 10 or 12 tricks for rapture ready, which is like, I know women are supposed to wear underwear because men will be looking at their skirts. Yeah, because
men will look up their skirts as they're being raptured to heaven. That's right.
Pack a lunch, I think, is a good idea.
Oh my gosh.
Make sure your pets are spayed and neutered. Yeah, all those things. No, David Brooks is simply beyond reproach.
Yeah.
I don't mean that he doesn't deserve reproach. He has simply ascended to a place in the media that it doesn't matter what anyone thinks of him. It doesn't matter what we peons say about him. It doesn't matter what the truth is about him. No. He is beloved and respected and feared by people in power. So his book on his relationship guide, how to know a person, how to truly see a person and be seen by a person, is getting the kind of author's publicity treatment that nobody gets.
Right.
And his last book got the same thing. It was wall-to-wall coverage by all of his friends in the media. It was endless book tours. It was promotional business. It was free columns to write about his book in major publications. It was being invited on Meet the Press to talk about his book. Nobody gets that shit. But David Brooks is beyond, he can't be touched.
And I think he'll be completely forgotten 5 years after his death.
We did talk about this. The fact that the best-selling authors in any era, in lots of eras, are vanished by the next era, are gone.
We had a long conversation about that in bed the other day.
We did, because we're
wondering
why
no one reads John Updike these days, right?
And people still read Poe, and I still get gifts that are Poe-based, and people still read Mark Twain. Mm-hmm. And playing the game of who will be remembered 20 years from now is always fun. But I wrote a long post that I sent along to a fellow traveler on the social media, in search of historic Bobo. I wrote it several years ago about future historians will not believe David Brooks ever existed.
Nope.
Because he couldn't exist. That's a person that ridiculous couldn't possibly exist and get paid to write these ridiculous things.
Yeah. And
we are living at a time when David Brooks isn't just paid to write these things. It's his universe. This is his timeline.
World. We just podcast in it. Yep.
Yeah.
Let's do a news roundup. The President Bidening continues. Would you like to begin, birthday boy?
I would love to. I'd like to talk about President Joe Biden, who asked Congress for $105 billion in national security funding for Ukraine, Israel, humanitarian aid, border security, and countering China in the Indo-Pacific. Biden called the funding package, quote, a smart investment that's going to pay dividends for American security for generations.
It was a good speech.
It was a very good speech.
And it sold me in the fact that he talked about giving Ukraine stockpiled stuff that we already own.
Right.
And manufacturing replacements in the United States with union jobs, good paying union jobs, and that this benefits our economy. And I don't like having an economy that is based on military industrial complex spending.
No, I hate it.
But that's the world we live in right now. And I think support for Ukraine is absolutely necessary.
Mm-hmm.
He's tying it to Israel, and that's going to be interesting how that unfolds with Blast Hardcheese.
Yeah.
And his unanimous House Republican caucus.
Mm-hmm.
From Newsweek, Florida residents flee state as insurance premiums skyrocket up to 900%. This is a failure of the DeSantis administration.
Hey, is he running for president? I don't know anymore.
We haven't noticed anything lately about that, actually. The skyrocketing cost of insurance premiums in Florida is leading residents to drop their insurance. Just drop your homeowner's insurance.
There you go.
Consider selling your home or even moving out of state, according to recent reports. If we tried to cancel our homeowner's insurance here in Illinois, we'd lose our mortgage.
We would.
The bank would say, "Oh, we're done. We're not going to let you keep that loan."
Well, and speaking of Illinois, we don't get a lot of hurricanes here. There's not a lot of.
We get derechos. We get
derechos,
tornadoes.
Which are fun,
we do.
But we don't get world-ending climate change disasters.
Cat 5
every hour on the hour.
Right.
And our governor is not a lunatic who who waged a jihad against Disney. So, and you know what? Housing prices here are pretty reasonable.
Oh my gosh, yes. I was looking at apartments for Junior Dude was in town last week, and one of his friends wants to move. He's living out in the country, wants to move back to Springfield. I was looking at rents for him. And you can get a nice one bedroom in a nice neighborhood for $600.
Yep. And everything is walkable. You can walk almost anywhere. And there is an actual mass transit system. There's a bus system.
Yeah, there is. It's, for what it is, it's good. It gets you to work most places. An
Amtrak train will take you to St. Louis or take you to Chicago.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot going for this little town of ours. There's a lot wrong with it. But, all right, Donald Trump tells Republicans to focus on watching votes being counted on election night instead of actually, getting out the vote. God love it.
Wait, it's October. It's 13 months before the election.
Shush, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm the president. And this is actually him quoting, "You don't have to vote. Don't worry about voting. The voting. We've got plenty of votes." This is laying
I need 11,000 votes.
Exactly. This is laying the groundwork for when I lose.
Yes.
I've been cheated. And you'll all know I cheated because I said we have plenty of votes. Worry about the voting machines. Watch the voting machines.
He's done this every time. 2016, 2020, and he's doing again 13 months out.
Yep.
Yeah. This is breaking news. This happened today. A federal judge has struck down Georgia's congressional and state legislative maps. And this is Mark Elias's work. Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
In an opinion released today, a federal judge struck down Georgia's congressional and state legislative maps for violating Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Georgia's congressional and state legislative maps clearly dilute the voting strength of Black voters across Georgia and deny those voters an equal opportunity to elect their candidates of choice. Both sides don't, DRIFTGLASS.
They don't.
Both sides
really
don't try to stop Black people from voting.
No. Well, I'm going to have to re-register as an independent because I'm not really sure I can understand the difference between these two parties. This is more from Donald Trump. If you're ready, strap in. Quote, "I'm for us. You know how you spell us, right? Right? U.S. I just picked that up. Has anyone ever thought of that before? I'm reading and said us. When you think about it, us equals U.S. If we think of something genius, they'll never say it. He never gets any credit.
Use the royal we.
He never gets credit for all these genius things that suddenly occur to him during his public decompensations. I don't know. And this was the same speech. This is all the same.
And in that same speech, he said, I was very honored. There's a man, Viktor Orban. He's the leader of Turkey.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. He's not the leader of Turkey.
No.
He's the prime minister of Hungary.
Turkey.
If Biden did it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If Democrats.
There'd be 25th Amendment calls immediately.
The if Biden did it, if Democrats did it game is over. Because
I know.
It's every day.
It's every day.
And the good thing about that is the question is not any longer if Democrats did it, here's what Democrats would do, here's what Republicans would do. It's all focused on how completely fucked up the Republican Party is, how there just aren't any good people in the party at all, ever, anywhere. The whole party is a stinking, rotting carcass because they're
let's face it, the media is to blame for so much of this. They are now content because there is a speaker to whom their reporters can run to get a quote.
That's it. That's all I want.
By deadline.
That's all I want.
And it doesn't matter that he's a Christopath.
No, at all. That's not the story.
The disturbance in the force was the vacancy.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't mention this in our run-up to this show, but there was this puff piece about Jim Jordan in the Washington Post. And it was written, I'm almost positive, when they were pretty sure Jim Jordan was going to be speaker.
Sure.
So they got this whole thing prepped and ready about what an upstart he is and how a firebrand and he's wrestling with America's problems and just embarrassing, cringy column. And then he didn't get to be speaker and they dropped it because they had this whole big thing they'd spent all this time and money on and they published it. And right across the internet, it's like, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. This very, very soft hand job of a column they give to Jim Jordan because they thought he would be speaker. Yeah. And they wanted to get ready for that. And when he wasn't,
they were doing what Axios has been doing for Kevin McCarthy since January. Yeah. The constant hand job for Kevin McCarthy at Axios. Yeah.
Donald Trump this week was fined $10,000. It's not deja vu. This is the second time it's happened for once again violating the gag order in his New York State's $250 million civil fraud trial. Judge Arthur Engeron ordered Trump to the witness stand to face questions under oath about comments he made earlier in the day that this judge is a very partisan judge with a person who's next to him who's very partisan sitting alongside him, perhaps even more partisan than he is, unquote. Yeah.
And he tried to pretend it was Michael Cohen while he was sitting under oath next to the judge and the judge's clerk. And it was clear that's who he was talking about.
Wasn't there some request from his lawyers to please stop rolling your eyes when my client lies to you?
Yes. Alina Habba asked the judge and the clerk to stop rolling their eyes and making comments to one another while she was cross-examining because it was distracting to her. And the judge agreed.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, all right. Yeah, you're right. We are making fun of you over here.
Everyone wear sunglasses.
You have decided. Trump's lawyers decided that Michael Cohen should stay on the stand.
Right.
And that they were going to prove he was a liar. And he just kept saying, yeah, I lied. I lied for Donald Trump. I lied because Donald Trump was my boss. Yes, of course I lied. I lied because he was paying me to lie.
This is in Alex Jones' lawyer giving the opposing counsel his phone,
right,
unedited, unread, unredacted, right. Just full of damning evidence. I mean, there are just no competent lawyers on that side of the aisle at all.
Nope.
And anyway.
They'll break the law for you, but they're not competent.
Well, then they'll cry about it and say they're sorry.
America's felon Rudy Giuliani said this. And I'm sorry to quote this because it's the ravings of a drunk and shame on him for talking this way. He said, Biden is on Iran's side and he's on Hamas's side. He's not on our side. And that's all I'm going to stop because I don't want to get into the rest of this. Except he says there's a bunch of spies in this administration.
Yeah.
Biden probably won't bother to sue Rudy Giuliani for defamation over this because Biden is busy celebrating a 4.9 GDP growth this quarter. But let's be clear. This is actual malice.
Yes, it is. Yes,
This
it
is not just political speech.
Nope.
And Biden has a case to sue for defamation for this garbage person making these comments on a podcast.
Well, and Giuliani's broke and he's drunk apparently all the time.
Yeah.
And he has no defense.
It has been for years, according to many people. Yes.
Oh, and he especially has no defense because you know what? This is a big weekend flipping, Blue Gal.
Flipping.
A lot of flippers. After Jenna Ellis raised over $200,000 to fight, quote, the criminalization of the practice of law, unquote, she cut a deal with prosecutors and then pled guilty to one count of aiding and abetting false statements related to the conspiracy to overturn the election of Donald Trump. She cried on cue on camera, so many crocodile tears, and she was really, really sorry that she got caught. You know?
Yes, she was really sorry she got caught. Yep.
And she wasn't the only one.
Yeah. Mark Meadows was granted immunity in special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election. And as many people have noted, Mark Meadows' phone is everything Republicans want Hunter Biden's laptop to be.
Yep. It's just full of good stuff.
Meadows has reportedly met with federal prosecutors at least 3 times, including once before a federal grand jury, providing testimony that he didn't believe the election was stolen and that Trump was being dishonest when he claimed victory when polls first closed on November 3rd of 2020. Meadows also told Smith's team that he repeatedly told Trump following election that the allegations of voter fraud were baseless. Trump responded to the report on his personal social media platform, which should be taken away from him, hint, judge, claiming that Mark Meadows never told me that allegations of significant fraud about the rigged election were baseless. He certainly didn't say that in his book.
No, he did
his
not.
book's full of lies. He wanted to make money off of MAGA and get them not to hurt him.
There's a Joe Mantegna quote at the very end of House of Games, which is a wonderful movie you should see, which is where he's confronted by this woman he has scammed and cheated. And he said, of course I lied to you. That's what I do for a living. I lie to people and take their money. Your money is gone. I'm really sorry. You know, of course Mark Meadows lied in his book. That's what he does. Of course they all lied to the public and to the press. That's what they do. But the fact that he told Trump privately that it's over, you lost, is the important factor, because Donald Trump lies all the time. If we just held people liable for lying to the public, Donald Trump would already be in prison for a million zillion years. But with Jenna Ellis flipping and Mark Meadows flipping, Giuliani has really no choice. He can either die a drunk under a bridge, or he can flip on Donald Trump, because there's no way out for this guy at all. And
there may be even if he flips, he may have 18 months in jail.
Good. Maybe they'll put him in a rehab.
Or 5
nice
years.
Rehab facility, dry him out.
Yeah.
You know, because he's a pitiful wreck of a human being. And every time he gets in front of a camera, he just, you can just hear him pissing himself, making stuff up and looking for his next drink. And it's just ugly to watch. Lubbock, Texas has become the largest county in America where it is illegal to travel through that county to receive abortion services in another state.
You can't get on the highways in Lubbock, Texas.
Which is
if you're seeking abortion care.
Blatantly unconstitutional. Blatantly unconstitutional.
But it's Texas.
Yep. Texas.
Here's some stats. As I said earlier, we had 4.9% GDP. And it's pretty universally acknowledged that that means soft landing.
Yeah.
And no recession this year.
Oh, you want to talk about New York Times PitchBot for a second?
New York Times PitchBot said that we were promised a recession, and then we have 4.9% GDP growth, and that's another broken Biden promise.
Another broken Biden promise. Sometimes they're just
sad. Record job creation, and yet only 35% of swing state voters trust Biden on the economy.
Yeah.
You were going to mention something about Bob Cesca.
Yeah, this is something that Bob Cesca was talking about on social media, and his question was, where the hell is the media?
Yeah.
Why do you think these swing state voters all think that Joe Biden can't be trusted with the economy? Where are the stories about this massive economic expansion, this recession that, thanks to Biden and the Democrats, we have avoided? Where's the story about job creation? They don't want to talk about that.
That's boring business stuff. They're worried about the bond markets because they're billionaire CEOs of those media companies.
Well, they need a horse race. They need
a horse race. Yeah.
They need Hunter Biden's laptop to be the most important story in the media, and nothing's going to get in that way. Yep. Anyway, here are some other statistics that I found depressing. 75% of Americans agree that, quote, the future of American democracy is at risk in the 2024 presidential election. The reason I hate stats like this is it doesn't say why they think American democracy
or who they are. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of people on the left like us think it's at risk because the Republican Party is an existential threat to democracy, period.
Right. Well, it's just like the Obamacare polls.
Right.
The number of people that thought it didn't go far enough and they didn't like it because it wasn't a public option.
Right.
Are lumped together with those who think, oh, that Kenyan usurper wants to kill my grandma.
Right. Oh, 64% of Americans don't like
Obamacare. That's it. Yeah.
Now, the statistic under that is the one that's truly disturbing. 23% of Americans agree that, quote, true American patriots may have to resort to violence in order to save our country. This is up from 15% in 2021. Doesn't surprise me, but it just
2 weeks ago today, DRIFTGLASS, Charlie Kirk said, buy ammo.
Yep.
Arm yourselves, open carry.
Yep. Yeah.
In public, he said that.
Charlie Kirk is a bad man with a gun.
Yep.
And the only cure to a bad man with a gun...
I don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
We've had sad news. I mean, it's
terribly sad news.
It's horrible. People got killed and maimed. Last night.
Yes, they did.
Because we have a dysfunctional Senate.
Well, we have a dysfunctional political system that the Republicans have broken. Again, there are ways to improve our condition. There's no way to fix violence in the human heart. There are ways to improve our condition measurably that Republicans will not permit us to do. And they are the problem. They are the disease. They're the cancer. Yep. Until that cancer is cut out of our system. And a large part of it is
treating women like human beings.
Right. We don't want to do that. We don't want to treat them like human beings.
But let's get back to the economic news.
Yes.
And this is local news, DRIFTGLASS. The Biden administration announced the designation of 31 communities across the country as regional innovation and technology hubs through the Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration. But, DRIFTGLASS, you know how there are 31 across the country? Illinois got 2.
Get 2 of them.
We get 2.
Hubs.
Not just 1, but 2 federal tech hubs. The Block Chicago Area Quantum Tech Hub, and I apologize, I went and looked that up. I went and read about it. I clicked on many links there. The Block, and it's spelled BLOCH, Chicago Area Quantum Tech Hub. I don't understand any of it. It's quantum mechanics, quantum computing, quantum energy, quantum, all this stuff.
It's Quantum Mania, honey. It's all
Quantum Mania.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of people there with very long names. from who were not born in Illinois, I don't think.
No, from the 4 corners of the world.
And they're very smart engineers and scientists working in the Chicago area quantum tech hub. I'm sure doing absolutely amazing things that will change the world and blow all of our minds. Okay. Closer to home, and something I do understand, the IFAB Tech Hub at the University of Illinois Bloomington. IFAB stands for Illinois Fermentation and Agriculture Biomanufacturing. This is called the precision fermentation industry, which is projected to reach $11.8 billion by 2028 and the potential to generate 1 million jobs by 2030.
You know what, Blue Gal? You know what?
What?
I remember when precision fermentation used to just be called craft beer, you know?
Well, it's more than beer.
Nope.
Precision fermentation is a growing area of biomanufacturing that can turn local feedstocks, mainly corn and soybeans. DRIFTGLASS, we have corn and soybeans from walking distance from our house.
Oh, we know those guys. We know those guys. Yeah. All right, cool.
We have a corn stalk growing out by the grill in the driveway.
We do. We do.
And so corn and soybeans are being turned into a variety of goods, including textiles, biofuels, food ingredients, polymers, pigments, and more, all within the United States. This is local stuff. Local crops, U.S. manufacturing, U.S. science, all within the United States, at University of Illinois in Bloomington. And this is sustainable, scalable, and biological manufacturing process. It relies on microbes to convert sugars into high-value products.
Like beer.
Possibly. I don't know. But, polymers.
Polymers.
And so this is one of 31 tech hubs that the Biden administration will be funding with money from the CHIPS Act.
Mm-hmm.
And so J.B. Pritzker tweet bragged about it.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the nation has caught on to our state's status as an innovation powerhouse. Our future couldn't be brighter.
Mm-hmm.
He said that at the state fair with the butter cow, too.
Yes, he did.
He likes to brag about Illinois. That's kind of nice. So do we.
Yes, we do. Along another timeline, this is manufacturing.
Absolutely.
And yeah. I might have been a part of this had things gone a little bit differently.
Back in the day.
I would not be a bioengineer, but finding a place for that and the jobs associated with that and so forth.
Connecting a community college and another community college and getting those kids to University of Illinois and back again.
Yep.
And doing satellite campuses and making sure that everybody had an opportunity to benefit from that learning. You would have been part of that. Yeah.
And getting the curriculums all synced up and getting actual certification that you can carry with you to your next job.
And then the actual companies that do the manufacturing would be on board asking for, look, we're going to have this manufacturing machine. We need to train people on it.
Exactly.
And have the CHIPS Act buy another machine so they can get trained on it and not use a machine that's already in use by the company.
And then if you're a company looking to locate to do this sort of thing, you don't look for tax breaks or that stuff usually. You look for a workforce that can do what it is you want to do.
That's trained,
And you create this critical mass of highly trained technicians, and other companies want to move here because that's the workforce they need to do what they want to do.
Also, the money's here, DRIFTGLASS. I don't know if you know that, but along with these tech hubs comes some money.
Some shmoney. That's right. Well, and these are also used as incubators for other businesses, for other industries.
Absolutely.
Create the workforce, and then you spin off, all sorts of things from
all the craft beer places that you can build.
The many craft beer things, and that
I must say, DRIFTGLASS, I'm with J.B. Pritzker. Our future couldn't be brighter.
Couldn't be brighter. And that whole section of the manufacturing thing, that used to be my jam. That was my specialty.
Absolutely.
So, speaking of the past, 39 years ago today, the greatest basketball player of all time, let me underscore that for all you fans of others out there, of all time, played his first regular season game against the Washington Bullets at the old Chicago Stadium. That'd be Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan played his first regular season game 39 years ago today.
Yes. So if you're feeling old, that's why.
That's why. Each week we post to our Facebook page and website an internet kitty sent in by you, the listeners. But this week's internet kitty is Leonard. Leonard is at youngest child's college apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he used to come in and just eat there and then want to be let out into the parking lot right away. But recently, Leonard has decided that he will adopt youngest child after all.
Mm-hmm.
And he is now occasionally just remaining indoors. He used the litter box.
Oh, big.
And he assists with college homework and mental health maintenance in the form of purring and snuggles. He will sit on youngest child's lap.
Mm-hmm.
And he, you will see in this picture, he is resting on top of middle child's biopsych homework because I'm a helper. And of course, Leonard eats freshly poured cat food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve pet store perfection or dollar store dreck, your pets will sit on the kitchen floor and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured.
Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh, my Lord, it's freshly poured.
So go visit Leonard at our Facebook page or website. We don't know for sure, and there was some discussion of this on Twitter, whether Leonard is biologically female or male, which means that Leonard fits right in at University of Missouri, St. Louis.
Yeah. they don't ask those questions. They don't care.
No one is worried about that.
Mhm.
So gender is a construct, okay?
Mhm.
And you can send your internet kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, where you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go Postal Unions. And by the way, go UAW.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Boy, did they get concessions from Ford.
Mm-hmm.
And
It works.
that deal is going through. They're still the union still has to vote on it, union members, but it's been announced that there's a deal on the table with Ford, and that's fantastic. And really, what union leadership they have there.
Unions work.
UAW.
Unions work.
They work.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's Irish.
Uh-huh.
The head of the UAW, Mr. Fine. I think Sean Fine.
Uh-huh.
I think he's Irish, Driftglass.
You think he is? Well,
Yeah,
we've been trying to get into the podcasters union, but we can't find one. So
don't forget our gourmet coffee guideline. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage for yourself, buy one for us. This is not charity. This is our job, and we love doing this podcast. If you can spare $5 a month, please spare $5 a month. And you can do that at patreon.com/proleftpod. We would really appreciate it. Please share our show on social media. And if you love this podcast, please get someone else to listen to. And thank you so much for doing that. Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
well, Blue Gal, the internet kitties are taking bets on how long House Speaker Mike Porksword will last.
Rip Steakface.
Let's think about living.
Think about living.
Let's think about loving.
Think about loving.
Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the loving, lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with the switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
A Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2023 DGBG Productions.